Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Welcome to what is maybe not so secretly my favorite thing that we do.
I've said that about a bunch of things. Like, I also love interviews with a normal person.
And every time we say that, I'm telling the truth.
I know.
I'm not lying. I really love books. And I love reading.
I love this one because it's more special, because it doesn't happen as often.
This type of episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it only happens 3 or 4 times a year.
Exactly.
So this is a seasonal thing. So welcome to your winter edition of Bonus Book Club. We are reading E Squared by Pam Grout. We're going to talk about what the title means in a minute. This is a book that's kind of like, in my mind, it's the companion to Outrageous Openness by Tosha Silver, which we talk about all the time. And we did a Bonus Book Club episode back in November of 2018. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. It's kind of like in a way, it's a call and response in that Tosha's version is getting at the same exact principles, but her methods are very different, whereas Pam's are a bit more scientific.
Yeah, I think E Squared is the more analytical version of
Outrageous openness. It's more for skeptics
yes.
than for outrageous openness people.
And for people who want a little bit more of a process on how to do it, not just the concept.
Yeah. So this book was a #1 New York Times bestseller at some point. It was written in 2013, so it's about 7 years old now. And I'm just going to I reread, Kristen didn't have time to, but I reread the book before we did this, because one of us had to. And I was struck, because it had been years since I'd read it. I was struck by how sometimes I was annoyed by how out of date the references were, even though they were only 7 years old, because she's a baby boomer. And so she's using references that are obviously a lot older than just 7 years ago. But also she thinks she's funnier than she is. Which,
I do remember that part. It's a little corny.
It's a little annoying. And I gotta be honest, a few jokes were like, I'm not sure you're allowed to make that joke in 2020 anymore.
Oh.
So I'm not saying it's a perfect book. The tone, it could be kind of annoying to some people. It's not egregious, or else I would not be even telling you to read this book. Because I would
just subtle.
There are times, but you can kind of, again, every book is going to have things that you might just want to gloss over and take what works and leave the rest. And this book is no different than that. Same with Outrageous Openness. There's a lot of talk of astrology in that book. And if you're not into that, who cares? Don't pay attention to that.
I don't even understand most of that. So it's fine.
You don't need to. Same with this. So I thought we would start by reading the foreword, because it's written by someone kind of like it's written from an outsider's perspective. From a former NASA biologist, PhD. I think that, is interesting. And
again, this is a much more science-oriented.
It sums up the theme of the book pretty well.
Yeah.
I just figured, let this woman say it, not us.
All right, here we go. When I was a kid, I asked my Sunday school teacher why miracles occurred in biblical times, but didn't seem to be part of our lives today. She had no answer, and I gradually came to assume that God, church, and religious stuff were irrelevant and far removed from my own life, even though I never quit longing for something more. I left spirituality behind to pursue science, which at least made an attempt to explain how the world works. It is a real treat to find Pam Grout's writings, which help doubters like me fill that desire for spirituality. She presents, in a delightful, fun way, at a level anyone can understand, that energy, power, and yes, even miracles are here now and available to everyone. The ideas and experiments in this book have helped me grasp in language that makes sense many of the things spiritual guides have been teaching for thousands of years. I highly recommend this book to anyone who is seeking to understand spiritual ideas and how they apply to all of us, even someone like me with doubts about organized religion. As she points out, retraining the mind is much like potty training a puppy. You have to keep taking it back outside and pointing out the beauty, the majesty, and the truth. Through simple, delightful baby steps, she helps guide the reader into awareness that miracles still happen and that there is an amazing energy source available to everyone.
That's pretty much it. That's the point of this book.
That's why I like it, because I'm a huge proponent of small baby steps. When you're trying to develop trust in something, especially trust in something as intangible as a spiritual connection, it's hard enough to build trust in yourself or in other people.
Yeah.
But to build trust in something you can't see, and there's less proof that it exists, that requires a little bit more faith, it really does help to take baby steps to build that trust. So I think that's what each of these experiments is doing, is taking one more step in that direction.
So in her words, she says, okay, imagine that there's a space heater, or rather an invisible energy force that's constantly available for our use, but you haven't bothered to turn it on. Most of us are totally oblivious to the fact that the quote-unquote space heater even exists. We think of life as a random crapshoot, c'est la vie. Those of us who do know about the space heater, that is, the energetic field that gives us the ability to shape and design our lives, don't understand how it works. We've heard rumors that praying turns it on, that good works keep it going, but no one seems to know for sure. This guru tells us to chant, that next one suggests meditation. The one from last year insisted we clean up our thoughts and increase our vibrations. So which is it? Is it the energy force really that vague and mysterious? And why does it only work sometimes? At best, it's finicky and fickle, certainly nothing you can bank on. Or is it? What I'd like to suggest is that this invisible energy field is 100% reliable. It works every time, like a math principle or a law of physics. 2 + 2 always equals 4. Balls dropped off roofs always fall. Your every thought always affects physical reality.
Well, and that really helps with trust, too, knowing like this is a universal principle of just how things work.
Yeah.
This isn't, I hope, or maybe, or...
No, every single time, every thought you have is, and we're going to get into why, affecting your reality. Just like the law of gravity is always 100% of the time in effect. Like, you can't really break the laws of gravity.
Yep. So the way that this book is organized is into 9, what she calls do-it-yourself energy experiments. And so I'm going to read a little section here where she describes what's going on there.
Yeah.
The 9 experiments in this book, most of which take a short 48 hours or less, will prove that the field of potentiality, which is what she calls universe or spirit or God or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you, infinite intelligence.
FP, like electricity, is dependable, predictable, and available to everyone. They'll prove what physicists over the past 100 years have discovered, that the field connects all of us, and that the reason we control our lives is because every thought we have is an energy wave that affects everything else in the universe.
We're going to get to that in a second. We're going to talk more about energy and like vibration and waves and all of that, like the quantum physics part of this. But I want to say a word about religion before we get too much more into this. Because the Ford she talked about, in the Ford they talked about religion. And I want to say it's not relevant to this. And I get really annoyed whenever I hear, I don't know, like I listen to podcasts and someone says they're an atheist and someone talks about why and they're like, well, I just don't believe in like religion. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess theism is like believing in what? Like religion and deities and stuff like that. That's very different than believing in a higher power. Mm-hmm. And so I don't like when people conflate those two things. Well, because religion is man-made. And a higher power is infinite intelligence. That's not man-made.
Exactly. One is the way that you connect to your spirituality, and one is like the actual spirit or the actual universe or the actual energy source that you're connecting to in the first place. So religion is just, how do you connect? Do you like to go to a physical space and do it with other people? Do you like to do it in prayer? Do you like to do it by reading a particular book? There's a lot of ways of going about it.
There's a lot of rules and stuff people have made up around how to do it and the best way to do it. And I think with religion, you have to kind of understand and acknowledge that that might work for some people, but it doesn't have to work for you, and that there literally is no one right way to, you know, as she would say, plug in a space heater.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it is a force that is always available to you, and you have to find the way to plug into it that works for you, which is why we're reading this book, is because this might work for you in a way that maybe some of the other things we've talked about, meditation or outrageous openness or all of that, haven't worked for you or just don't work as well for you.
Or the things that you have been exposed to outside of this by other people or how you were raised or anything may or may not connect with you. And it's good to have a lot of choices.
So when we talk about the field of, like, she calls it the field of potentiality. Again, you can call it the universe. You can call it infinite intelligence. You can call it God. But it's not like a sentient dude with a beard sitting on a cloud making moral judgments or punishing you. That's definitely not what that is. In her mind, it doesn't have any sort of moral imperative. It's not making judgments. It's a law of physics. It's just, it's just an infinite intelligence that is responding, like, to your every thought, because you are energy too. We're going to get into that. So, okay, there's a really cool story that she tells that kind of sums up why, I don't know, like what happened when she first started doing these experiments. And we will get into, we're not going to get into all 9 experiments, but we're going to get into 3. Like I picked 3 that I thought you guys would really like. So she says, like most people, I started with baby steps, making simple intentions like securing upfront parking spots, finding 4-leaf clovers, getting interviews with people in the headlines. She's a writer, by the way. Obviously, she wrote this book, but she's like a freelance writer. But the result that finally convinced me that setting up a framework, posting a deadline, and using scientific-style experimentation was imperative to real spiritual growth was what I now refer to as the nail miracle. For years, I hung a calendar beside my bed, plucking it down from time to time to jot down important events or to look back for the date I last cut my hair or met so-and-so or went to the dentist. One night, I grabbed the calendar a bit too eagerly and pulled out the small nail that secured it to the wall. I got down on my hands and knees to search for it. How far can a little nail go, right? I looked and I looked and I looked, and apparently that little nail had secured a Harry Potter-style invisibility cloak because it was nowhere to be found. I finally concluded that I'd spent enough time crawling around on my carpet and that I would just send out an intention for it to show up within 24 hours. The next morning when I woke up, the nail was in my hand, nestled between my thumb and forefinger. Since then, I've gone on to manifest all sorts of cool things, but none of them made the kind of impression that little nail did.
That's amazing.
Isn't that really? I mean, you can try to explain that with your mind, but like, who knows? She could have sleptwalked to that nail.
Sure.
Some sentient angel could have plopped it down in her hand. She could have rolled over and grabbed it. It could have ended up in her sheets. We just don't know. But either way, that's what we're talking about.
Right. The ease, you could scour the floor for God knows how long, or you could just set an intention and it lands in your hand.
So, okay, we're going to get into a few points before we get into the experiments. One is, why is this book called E Squared?
Yeah, it is a weird name, and I always feel like I have to explain it, or
it doesn't seem like it's not obvious.
Right. Because I recommend this book to clients over the years, and they're always like, wait, what did you say? E what?
Right.
So let's describe what we're talking about here.
Okay.
It comes from Albert Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared, which is discovering that energy and matter are interchangeable. They're just different forms of the same thing. So in other words, in more human words, human beings aren't matter. We're just continually moving waves of energy.
There's a fun fact about this that I really blew my mind.
Yeah, let's read it. There's a huge amount of energy contained in every human. You contain no less than 7 times 10 to the 18th joules of potential energy. So for all of you non-physicists like me,
which just means nothing to me,
who have no idea what that means, if you liberated that energy, that's the force of 30 very large hydrogen bombs.
Yeah, so that's a lot of energy.
In one person.
That's a lot of energy we're carting around. And to think that has no power is silly, because clearly it has a crap ton of energetic potential and power.
30 hydrogen bombs
worth of power.
That's a lot of power. That's a lot of energy.
So here's the thing. And we know this to be true now, if everything that we can observe is made of, we're not talking about dark matter here. We're talking about observable matter, is not actually solid, is made of just, tightly compressed sometimes, but energetic waves. Like everything is vibrating, everything is moving, you just can't see it, then that means that humans are nothing but energy, which means your thoughts are also energy. because literally everything that makes you up is energy. So here's what she has to say about that thing, or that thought. Your thoughts, like the 289 TV channels and like your voice on the cell phone, are vibrational waves. When you hear Eminem rapping about his daughter, Haley, your eardrum is catching a vibrational sound wave. When you see Brad Pitt's cane or Madonna's leather glove, accessories they sported at the 2012 Golden Globes, so you can see this is like a while ago, you're seeing patterns of vibrational light waves. And that's what your thoughts are, vibrational energy waves that interact and influence the field of potentiality, the FP. Every thought you have ever had, or ever will have, creates a vibration that goes out into the FP, extending forever. These vibrations meet other vibrations, crisscrossing in an incredible maze of energy. Get enough energy together, and it clumps into matter. Remember what Einstein said, matter is formed out of energy. So this isn't like, what she's trying to say is this isn't like a woo-woo notion.
This isn't fluffy.
No, like energy actually does coalesce into matter. And so your thoughts, if directed enough, can coalesce into matter. Like, it's a proven thing. Because thoughts are energy and we are energy coalesced into matter. So why couldn't your thoughts and your intentions go out into the universe and coalesce into matter? Like, if we are adhering to that law of physics, then our thoughts are too.
Right. And here's the thing. I think this is fascinating. I love figuring out, like, wait, where did this come from? And, like, what is the science behind this? But you don't have to know how it works for it to still work for you. It's like you don't have to understand how gravity works to participate with it. It's going to happen whether you get it or not.
Yeah.
So this is happening all the time, whether you understand the inner workings of it or not. So even if you're like, my science brain like died in 5th grade or something, then it's fine. Like, this is still applicable to you. We just like to go into a little of the back end for the people who are interested in the science behind it.
No, you don't have to understand. A physicist a quantum physicist she quoted in the book said, the universe doesn't exist without a perceiver of that universe. So what he's saying is, it's very probable we're just living in the Matrix and physical reality only exists because we're here to witness it. And I wrote next to that, shrug, LOL. Like, all right. Like, what do we all know? What are we doing here? No one knows. No. It doesn't matter.
Which tells you, like, quantum physicists don't even really know what's going on because we have no idea what would happen if we weren't.
Because the deeper they get into it, the more they realize that the quantum realm doesn't actually, like, adhere to the laws that we observe up here. And so they're like, hold on, why is one she was talking about this in the book, why does one molecule or atom or something disappear and then it can just instantly reappear thousands of miles away? Like, that can happen. Well, I don't know what's happening down there, but if it's happening down there, something weird's happening up here too.
No, I don't know.
And so I just feel like you have to be willing to acknowledge that you know so very little of what's knowable. And to that end, let's move on, because this is actually getting into a point that I was going to make in a minute anyway. Okay, so if it's true that your thoughts create your reality, and we're just asking you to believe that that is the case, go with it in order to do these experiments.
There's a lot of scientists who have put their life's work into that, so, you know,
I'm just telling you,
trust it.
It's true. You don't have to believe it, but it's happening. That means you're always creating your reality, which means, yeah, even the reality you don't enjoy, you're creating that, because your thoughts, which are just vibrational waves, are a perfect match to whatever you're experiencing. So if you want a different experience, you've got to quite literally get on a new wavelength.
Yeah, like an energetic wavelength, because just, you know, it's happening all over the place, even if we don't know it. So why does it feel so hard to change our wavelength? Because, you know, when you're in a particular funk or your particular subset or mindset, it feels really hard to just snap your fingers and change your reality, right? Like, this is something that I struggle with, that a lot of people struggle with. So let's talk about that. Right now, the planet you call home is spinning at a rate of roughly 930 miles per hour. It's orbiting the sun at an astonishing 66,486 miles per hour. But unless you just polished off a couple of pitchers of beer, you probably aren't aware of that movement. It's just one tiny example of how we distort reality. Turns out that almost all the concepts and judgments we take for granted are distortions. Very early on, say sometime around birth, Our minds establish a pattern of perception and then proceed to filter out everything else. In other words, we only experience things that jibe with our very limited perception. Which is why when you get on a particular wavelength, you feel like you get kind of stuck there because that feels like your reality because you have this distorted view of what reality even is. And so jumping to a totally new thought or reaction feels almost impossible.
Well, and here's why. Like, I'm going to continue reading. Here's why this is particularly... It's you can do it, but it takes effort to get on a new wavelength. Scientists now know the brain receives 400 billion bits of information each second. To give you some idea of just how much information that is, consider this. It would take nearly 600,000 average-sized books to print 400 billion zeros. Needless to say, that's a heck of a lot of reality. So what do? We start screening. We start narrowing down. I'll take that bit of information over there, and let's see, this one fits nicely with my ongoing soap opera about the opposite sex. When all is said and done, we're down to 2,000 measly bits of information. Go ahead and take a bow, because even that's pretty impressive. We're talking 2,000 bits of information each and every second. But here's the problem. What we choose to take in is only 1/2 of 1/1,000,000% of what's out there. So what we're saying and what she's saying is that your perception of reality is the teeniest, tiniest little baby sliver of reality. You are filtering almost everything, and you're calling that truth. And 99.99999% is not available to you because you're either unconsciously filtering it out or sometimes kind of choosing to filter it out.
Yep.
And the way you filter is often just by your default tendencies, your beliefs, the way your assumptions, the way that your thinking has been constructed.
And you can see how even just a very minor shift in what's possible and opening up could be huge in terms of how different you feel, how different your life looks, how different what you believe is possible. We're not even asking you to open up the 99.5% that you currently are closed off to. Like, I don't know, another quarter of a percent.
I think it's more like 99.999999999 into infinity.
I don't know how to do a smaller note, like a small little addition to that. But literally, that's all it takes is a little bit of open-mindedness to say, what else could I think here? Or what else could be possible here to make a gigantic difference?
Or more like in terms of this book, what am I willing to sort of admit I might not know? Like, what kind of disbelief or doubt am I willing to put aside to do some of these experiments?
There's so much. Literally, most of the things I don't know.
Right. And allow myself to be proven wrong, maybe. About something.
Which is why I love the style of doing it in these experiments, because you get to play with this energy a little bit. You get to say, all right, I don't know how much I believe yet, but I'm open to the possibility. And so I'm going to put out a hypothesis that if I try this new approach or this new mindset, something different will happen.
And I can gather information and look for it and mark it down and kind of go through it in a methodical way.
Yep.
So I picked out 3 experiments for us to talk about because there's 9. I'm obviously not going to talk about all of them. Obviously, don't want to give all of them away either. You should read the book if you want to. So we're going to give plenty of examples and stories that come to mind as we talk about this, but they're all very simple and easy to do, and it only takes you a couple of days to do each of them. So experiment number 1, each one of them has like a theory and a hypothesis. So the theory of experiment number 1 is this. There is an invisible energy force or field of infinite possibilities, whatever you want to call it, and it's yours for the asking. That's it. That's the theory.
So the hypothesis to this theory is if there's a 24/7 energy force equally available to everyone, I can access it at any time simply by paying attention. Furthermore, if I ask the force for a blessing, giving it a specific time frame and clear instructions, it'll send me a gift and say, my pleasure.
So the experiment is simply ask the FP, the field of potentiality, the universe, whatever you want to call it, for a blessing or an unexpected gift and give it a 48-hour deadline. And you can ask for the gift to be unmistakable so that just hit me upside the head with how obvious this is, please.
I like to do that because otherwise I know myself and I'll be like, well, maybe that would have happened anyway. Or like, does that even really count? And so you're allowed to ask, like, I need
to be
you
gobsmacked.
I need you to make it so obvious that even the doubting part of my brain is like, I don't know how to explain that one.
Yeah, right. So I did this last night because I knew that I was going to... So I didn't give it enough time. I gave it like 15 hours, not 48 hours. But I was like, the universe and I aren't tight. So like...
48 hours is arbitrary. You can give it any amount of time.
Right. But I think 48 hours is good because it allows you to kind of chill because you don't want to necessarily be like a walking bag of anxiety. Like, is that it? Is that it? Is that it? Like, again, if you're asking it to be unmistakable, then I think it's... like you can relax because you're going to notice it even if you're distracted.
You don't have to be on alert.
It's gonna interrupt your whatever days you're in at the time. You can trust that.
Yep.
So last night I was like, okay, let's try this so that I have a story to tell tomorrow. I have plenty of stories, but I was like, no, I'm just going to ask for, I don't know if I asked for a blessing. I don't think I've received a blessing, but I do think I got a sign. And so that's fine. So I was on the phone this morning with one of our friends, and she was telling me that she wants to get out of the victim triangle. And so we've talked about this on past episode, but part of the victim triangle is being a rescuer. So there's like, you're always trying to save someone. There's kind of the victim, there's the rescuer, there's the perpetrator, and she feels like she's always in the rescuer role, and she's trying to get out of it. And I was like, isn't there something that's the opposite of the victim triangle? And she goes, yeah, it's called the empowerment triangle. And I was like, oh, what's the opposite of a rescuer then on the empowerment triangle? And she said a coach. I'm like, well, hilarious, because like you are a coach. So it's actually like
could
maybe your destiny to like just be a rescuer, but like in a positive, empowering way. And 5 minutes later, because I'm talking to her while I'm walking the dog, I pass a license plate that says to empower. Like while I'm talking to her. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just letting you know that the universe is signing off on your decision to, you know, be empowering rather than rescuing, which is a little thing, but I laughed and I thought it was cute and funny. And the universe has a really good sense of humor.
It does. Some of the stories that you'll hear are indicative of that.
Yeah.
So this is a really fun one. It's also the best introduction. It's why she starts with this experiment, because you don't have to fully believe. You're not even getting that specific. You're just saying, hey, are you there?
It's kind of like make your presence known.
Yes.
To that end, I had a client who I told to read this book recently. And she, like, you know, I think she's one of those who's kind of a skeptic, but she really wants to buy into it. And she was looking at the Amazon reviews of this book. And there was someone on there who was clearly very, maybe like an evangelical Christian. Who was like, this is playing with Luciferian teachings. Like, this is akin to the devil, and you're going to be smote, you know, if you read this. And so she was telling, my client was telling her friend about this kind of, like, wild and out Amazon review, like, do less, lady. And later on, her friend texts her and said, okay, so I'm sitting in my apartment right now and the window is open and some lady is out there yelling for her cat and the cat's name is Lucifer. So I'm just hearing a lady right now screaming Lucifer over and over and over again outside. And I'm like, that right there is, it's meta and it's beautiful. The universe is trolling her, but also letting her know,
but in a funny, loving kind of a way. No, I'm
here, but like, yeah, I'm just gonna kind of troll you a little bit. I died laughing at that.
So good.
It's just perfect.
It's
like
so good.
It's unmistakable too. Like you can't tell me that was a coincidence. I mean, that's just too good.
Yeah. So I know you guys have had these little moments in your life, and maybe in the past you've thought, oh, that's a weird coincidence. Or like, what a little serendipitous moment. But I want you to start looking at them a little bit differently. Like maybe if I put my attention on something, it grows and it collects other things that are similar, and there's actual proof that happens. And those coincidences are not really coincidences. Should we move on to...
Yeah, I mean, we've got other stories, but they fit with the other ones. So, yeah. Okay.
So experiment number 2. The theory behind this one is you impact the field, that field of potentiality, and draw from it according to your beliefs and expectations.
So, in other words, actually, hold on. I was going to have Kristen read this. I'm opening up the page for you. This is like in the moment. It's from the top to the end of the section. Go ahead.
Once you form a belief, you attach all your senses and your life to its survival. Physicists call this phenomenon collapse of the wave. Infinite numbers of quantum particles are out in the universal field, dancing around, spreading out in waves. The moment someone looks at these energy waves, they solidify like gelatin in the refrigerator. Your observing is what makes them appear solid, real, and material. Remember in Disney's Snow White, when she's lying on the forest floor crying? She feels as if all these eyes are staring at her. And indeed, dozens of forest creatures are skittering and scampering about. But the moment she raises her head to look, all the cute little birds, squirrels, and deer dive behind trees. All she can see is a solid, unmoving forest. In reality, our universe is a moving, scampering energy field with infinite possibilities. But because our eyes have locked in on problem mode, that's what appears to be reality.
Mm-hmm. Or it's like in Toy Story when as soon as a person is walked in, they're inanimate. But when you're not there, they're running around.
Right. That is actually what's happening to energy.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? That just blows my mind.
So the hypothesis of this experiment is if I decide to look for specific things, I will find them because you're already doing that every day without realizing that you're doing it. So the point is to prove that if I start looking for different things, those things will appear. And that honestly, often the reason I'm finding that like I'm getting the same result over and over again is just because I'm fixating on it.
Yep.
So she suggests picking just random things. Like pick a random color of car and then count how many you notice in 24 hours.
Or pick something like a yellow butterfly or a purple feather.
And then do the same thing for another 24 hours.
Right. I had a client who did a version of this experiment recently. She was in an argument with her husband and, you know, she's completely going off the deep end of thought of, you know, like, is this even right? And did we make a mistake? And, you know, they just were like having a normal married person argument. And she asked the universe, like, I feel like I'm just overreacting, but I need a sign. So can you send me a black feather? And she lives near the beach. And she was like, a black feather is not common. Like you see white seagull feathers or like gray feathers all the time where I am, but you don't see black feathers. And then she's like, I'm just going to go on a walk and like clear my head because I need to get out of my house and away from my husband because I'm annoyed. And she walks around and she literally sees a trail of black, like not just one, like a trail of black feathers.
Like some crow has bit the dust.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. But isn't that crazy? It was like, again, the unmistakable sign.
Yeah.
Again, you can ask for not just one black feather or not like a black spotted feather. Like there's a little bit of black on that one. Can I count it? No, like make it really obvious.
Yeah.
There can be an explosion of feathers.
I think I talked about this on another episode, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's from this book. I decided I wanted to look for sky blue cars because it's not like a super common color of car. Mm-hmm. And I was counting a bunch of them on my way to work. This was like years ago when I still had a full-time job. And I was like, I mean, like, it was cool because I was seeing a bunch of them. But it was like, well, but like, is that really the universe? You know, like, I don't know. And I got to work and we worked in an old, I worked downtown right across the street from a courthouse in an old converted house, like in the middle of Old Town. And so our parking lot was just kind of a driveway. And often people would, you know, parallel park next to it. And they're not supposed to park in front of the driveway, obviously. But every once in a while it would happen. And so I pulled in and I couldn't get into my parking spot because a sky blue SUV was blocking me. Like, it wasn't just random when I saw it. It was impeding it was directly in my path.
You couldn't continue on because you were being stopped by it. Like, that's how
it was that
in
obvious.
Your face.
And I laughed, like, really hard about that. Because after that, I was like, okay, well, that's just not me seeing things. Like, I didn't make that happen. You know?
Right.
Like, that to me felt more egregious. And so, again, the point is not like this doesn't go counter, because I feel like a lot of times people will do this one in particular and they'll say like, well, I know that that's just like a function of your brain, is your brain will look for things, you know, like this thing is called the Volkswagen Jetta experiment because when you get a new car, all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. Or you're looking into getting a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere.
Right.
And yeah, that is a function of your brain. It's like happens in the reticular formation. But to say that your brain is somehow separate than the laws of the universe is silly. Like your brain and the laws of the universe are simpatico, right?
So
like,
not only are you noticing more, but you're actually attracting more of them into your experience.
With your thoughts.
Because your thoughts are collecting with other universal thoughts that are the same.
Right. You're right. Like your energy is influencing your environment. That's why it's working.
Yep.
So anyway,
this is a fun one because you can see in the first one, you're just asking for
whatever.
Hey, are you out there? Can you give me a sign? Now you're getting a little bit more specific.
I think one time I asked for something really weird, like a beach ball, but it was like I don't know, like October, November. And I was like, I'm not going to see a beach ball. I don't live near the beach.
And it's cold.
And I went for a walk. And I used to go on the same walk every day because Scarlett was like mortifying at that point and just going on the same walk. And now she's a diva and has to go different directions multiple times a day, which I understand. But I would go on this walk every day. And like I went on this walk and that day there was a deflated beach ball in the woods. And it was like grad. It was like a graduate, like a grad 2014 or something like that beach ball. I'm like, how did it get there?
Graduating in November anyway.
Well, they did
so
it, but
like,
it's deflated. It was clearly from like a party like 6 months ago or maybe 5 months ago or something like that. And it was still, but I hadn't, it hadn't been there the day before. Where did it come from? So like, there's some weird crap that happens when you start focusing on it. And like, after a while, you do this enough. That's the point of this book. You do it enough. You get to the point where you're like, well, there's something going on here. Like, this is clearly not a coincidence. And like, that's too weird to have happened.
Yeah.
Okay, experiment number 3. Or 5. Well, technically it's the third one we're talking about, but in the book it's number 5.
We're skipping a few to go to another one that we think you guys will like.
Okay.
In this one, the theory is that your connection to the field provides accurate and unlimited guidance. I know you guys are going to like this one a lot because I know a lot of you are looking for some answers and guidance and you are feeling kind of stuck and you don't know where to go.
That's the point.
This is a good one to try out.
Okay, so in other words, she says in the book, relying on any other decision-making tool other than like the universe or the field of potentiality is trouble or asking for trouble. The monkey mind was never designed to solve problems. It's like using a pair of fingernail clippers to cut your lawn. Yet that's where most of us get our guidance, from a left cerebral hemisphere that's prone to misjudgment, faulty interpretations, and major fabrications. The conscious mind was designed for just 2 things: to identify problems and formulate goals. Anyone harnessing the mind properly would use it to define a problem or set an intention and then quickly jump back. That's it. That's all the cerebral cortex is good for, planting seeds. But instead, the conscious mind decides to get involved, to weigh the pros and cons, to come to rational decisions, gut feelings be damned.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most of you guys are suffering from.
Yes.
Is an overly active cerebral cortex that is not actually designed to solve really intricate questions that the universe and or the field of potentiality is more capable of solving for you and helping you with.
You know that this doesn't work because you get caught up in loops in your brain over and over and over again. And that's why you get analysis paralysis because this doesn't work. Yeah.
So the hypothesis is, the hypothesis of this experiment is, if I ask for an answer to a yes or no question, I will get clear guidance. So that's it. You just choose an issue that's troubling you, something that has a yes or no answer, something on which you're maybe confused and you don't know what to do. And you just ask for a clear, non-debatable answer and ask for it to show up within a deadline, like 48 hours.
Yep. I did this a couple of years ago. I was needing a prescription for something, and I am very, very particular about what medications I put in my body. Because, like that's some serious chemical stuff and that can mess up with your whole biochemistry. So I was having a lot of trouble figuring out what I wanted to go with. And I had a doctor's appointment coming up and I had to make a decision when I was going to that doctor's appointment because that's when we're going to get the prescription. So I asked the universe for a very clear sign. I was kind of leaning in one direction, but I wanted a really clear sign on what was going to be best suited to my body. And I put it out there and I said, I need to know this in it was about 48 hours before my doctor's appointment, having no idea how I was going to get clarification on something really particular and specific like that. But I had the idea, maybe I should first call the insurance company and make sure everything's covered. So maybe that'll, help my decision. So I called the insurance company and I'm talking to the agent and I'm kind of explaining my situation. And I asked, are all of these different varieties covered? And she was like, yeah, they're all covered. And I said, I'm kind of leaning toward this one. And she said, that's really funny. That is what my daughter's name is. Like the name of the prescription.
The name of the medicine.
The name of the medicine was her daughter's name, spelled the same way and everything. She's like, oh yeah, I spelled it that way. That's so funny. And I was like, okay.
There's my sign.
I guess it can't get a lot clearer than that. So I knew what to tell my doctor.
This is, I don't know if I've talked about this before. I may have, but I'm going to talk about it. Oh my God. Okay, this is really weird, guys. I was just about to start talking about my dog, Abby, who died 5 years ago, and my current dog, Scarlett, started barking at the exact moment I opened my mouth to talk about my old dog.
For the first time in this podcast.
And she hasn't barked the entire time. She's down there barking now. So okay, there's some weird stuff going on. So anyway, she passed away 4.5-ish years ago. She was really old. She was 16 and a half. She was closer to 17. She really made it past 16 and a half. She was very old for a dog. And she was really she was on her last leg. And she wasn't having a good time living anymore. But there was nothing like she was dying really, really slowly, but she could have lasted months more and just suffered and it would have not been good. So it was that hard thing where it wasn't clear of if my parents should put her down or not. And my mom was really struggling with that. And my dog is just continuing to bark this whole time. Scarlett's down there, and that's fine. We'll just let her do it. And so my mom, and I said, Mom, why don't we ask for a clear answer about what to do? Let's ask if we have permission. That's a yes or no. Do we have permission to put her down? And I said goodbye to her. The dog was my last time seeing her. And then I drove away. And on my way home, 5 minutes later, I heard Miranda Lambert's song, The House That Built Me. And in that song, there's a lyric that says, my favorite dog is buried in the yard. But what my mom didn't know, and I called her to tell her that A, I heard that song, but B, in the music video of that song, the dog is a lab. It's a lab puppy that they're holding when, And so I was like, I think that's your permission. And my mom took that and was like, that's it. And so they did it. And then later that night, I was taking a walk and I knew that she'd passed by then. And so I asked her, Abby, for a sign that she'd made it. Did you make it? Yes or no? Or wherever you are. And I got this urge to pull out my phone and scroll through my music and just kind of close my eyes and scroll until I felt like stopping. And my thumb, I just stopped on a song and I looked down and it was Taylor Swift's 15, which she wrote for her best friend named Abby.
Oh.
And I felt like, okay,
all right,
thanks.
That was two in the same day.
Yeah.
There was a lot of energy behind that too. That was a really emotional experience.
Yeah. I'm thinking also of, especially with the giving deadlines, here's why that's important. So I have a client who has a really she's been in a corporate job for a really long time. She has her own business and she really wants to quit and go full time with her business. But it's really scary to do that. It's a huge leap. And she's kind of she's definitely a lover of stability. And she's she would say she's a self-admitted scaredy cat. And so it's been a hard thing to wean herself off of a corporate salary. And so her plan, for a while we were coaching and she was just like, I know I need to quit. I know I need to quit. I don't know when. And I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to circle a date on your calendar. We're going to give you a deadline. I said, I believe what will happen is that even if you don't quit on that exact day, it really forces you and the universe to start amping up and to kind of let's get things shaking. Let's see what will happen if we actually focus our potential, we laser focus our energy in a specific direction. Because when you don't have a deadline, your energy's kind of going all over the place.
Yep.
When you have a deadline, it's focused kind of like a laser. and it's more powerful. So she did that, and it was going to be like March or April. I can't remember the date. She emailed me yesterday to tell me, or maybe it was 2 days ago, but this week, great timing as I'm talking about this book. She emailed me to say, you would not believe what happened. There are going to be layoffs at my company. And not only will I get, I'll get the bonus that I've been holding out for. That's why she was going to leave in March or April. But they're actually asking people to volunteer to be laid off. And if you do, if you get laid off, you get a huge severance to the point where I would double the amount of money that I've saved, and I could very comfortably for a very long time live off of my savings and run my business if I needed to. And she goes, I'm going to volunteer as tribute to be laid off. And I was like, and she's like, it honestly doesn't even feel like I'm leaving. It literally feels like the universe helped me orchestrate like a natural kind of breaking up with, like a mutual parting of the ways between me and my job. And who's ever heard of someone volunteering to be laid off? I had never heard of that.
I have never heard of that. And we have coached so many people in so many different careers. And that's something brand new to me. So, I mean, come on. What are the chances that she could have never imagined that? Because I'm sure she didn't even know places did that.
And the timeline of the layoffs is exactly the timeline she was planning to leave anyway. It's like March or April. So it's not like she'd have to stay for another 6 months. It was a miracle solution to her problem that she never could have dreamed up. She never could have thought, oh, in 5 months, I'll be volunteering to be laid off. That wasn't an option on her list.
And making a ton of money to do so.
Right, exactly. And getting paid a lot of money to leave.
Yeah. This is how powerful each of us is. It's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So all we're asking you to do is start playing in even the smallest ways with this potential power, while hopefully giving you some inspiration on what's possible when you really focus your energy. Because that's a pretty huge thing. Most people would never expect that. They would be trying to orchestrate it with their logical mind. What is the best timeline and how can I make sure that I save everything?
I have a lot of clients right now who need to hear what I just said because they're also doing that. They're trying to logic the answer, and they need to just step back and let the universe help them craft a solution that's better and more potent than anything they could have come up with.
Yep.
There are more stories that I have, but this could just turn into story hour, which maybe would be fine. But I think you kind of have you kind of get the gist, right?
Create your own stories and then come share them. You've heard plenty of our stories. I want you to play with this and try some of these experiments. And then come to the comments and share what you find out. I think it'd be really fun, actually, to all come together and say, oh, this is what happened for me. Or I tried experiment number 4 and this is what happened. That would be really fun. So do that. We're gonna put it back on you now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I just thought of 4 more stories I didn't get to tell. That's fine. Let's just say this happens all the time. And the more that you ask for it, the more you invite it in, the more ludicrous stuff will start happening, the more... you can, every time I feel like I worry about something or I oh my God, money, I start worrying about, oh no, am I going to make enough money 1 month? Because running your own business, that's the way it is.
Highs and lows.
You every time something has happened, we get a random check in the mail or we get a new client or something ends up working out that makes it fine every time.
Yeah. It's been fine for
6 years.
6+ years now. So I should just trust it by now.
So if you liked this episode and you want to kind of stay in the energy of talking about, the universe and signs and manifesting stuff, I have a list of episodes that are along this theme that you will enjoy. These are kind of in kind of a chronological order, starting with the newest and then going backward. You can go to the show notes if you want a reminder about any of these. One is Expecting the Perfect Job to Be Your Savior with Sarah Knight from October 2019. She tells some really cool stories about the synchronicities that happened once she started meditating and kind of getting in touch with the field of potentiality, the universe. And she's just letting the universe plan her life and make her decisions.
Mm-hmm. Another really good one is a side chat we did in June 2019 called Honing Your Intuition and Knowing When It's Really Fear. Because again, a lot of the way you get signs from the universe is through your intuition, through nudges or through curiosity.
And you've got to be open.
Right. You heard Rachel and I both saying things like, maybe I'll call my insurance company or maybe I'll pull my phone out and just scroll. And those intuitive nudges are usually guiding you towards signs. So to know when it's your intuition versus fear is really helpful.
And then a few bonus book clubs that are related. 2 books, of course, by Tosha Silver we've done. Her book, well, we talked about Outrageous Openness, which is from November of 2018. We also did one in March 2019 about money. So Tosha has a book called It's Not Your Money, which is all about kind of using these types of principles to clean up your relationship with and attract more money into your life, which is really cool.
Yeah, and if you want to dive a little bit more into like what's really possible if I like set my mind to things and how can my life look completely different, I would definitely read The Alchemist. We talked about that book back in August of 2018. It's written.
It's an allegory.
Like
it's a work of fiction, but
it is.
It contains within it infinite wisdom. I feel like he talks about this in interviews. He says he just wrote down and in 2 weeks channeled the whole book. Like he didn't feel like he wrote it. It literally feels like the universe wrote the book.
Yes.
And was like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here are all the secrets of the universe.
He was just the medium who wrote it down.
That's what it feels like.
And so it's amazing. It's going to really inspire you to want to play with the universe more.
Yeah, it's a great book. And then I'm not going to read them all out loud, but if you want to see every book club episode, like if you love the book club episodes and you want to get more book recommendations for us, I also link to every book club episode we've done since we started the podcast. So beyond the 3 we just mentioned, there's like 5 more that we've done since, almost 2 years now. Yeah. It's a lot of good books if you want to get reading. So that's that. We'd love to hear your stories about you doing some of these experiments. If you get the book, like what are your results? And you know what? If this isn't your approach, great. Go read Outrageous Openness or
find something else and come share it with us.
Right. But this may work for you. And so we just really like introducing you to different facets of the same thing. It's all just different branches of the same tree that are getting down to the same root system. So if one branch works for you, great. If not, we can hop to another one. So we will be back on Tuesday with, I think it's going to be something from me. I don't know what, but we'll see you then.
Okay. See you then.
Bye.